I have fond memories of watching the Sarah Jane Adventures. Unfortunately, many of these memories were in 2008. When the Tennant era ended, Rusty Davies continued writing for both Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. 3 shows for 3 audiences. Coming back 10 years later has been enlightening. You have to really hand it to Russell T Davies. Not only did he revive a cult phenomena and make it work today, but then he also tried to run 3 shows at once. That's admirable. And all 3 of these shows were, for their target demographic, top notch. A CSI Cardiff show, yeah, sure, makes sense. But stop to think how weird the concept of Sarah Jane Adventures is. A former companion becomes an ambassador of Earth, with nothing but a robot dog, some alien extraterrestrial gifts, and some children that she literally picked up from across the road. Now, I will not be analysing the episodes of this show like Doctor Who. It is not Doctor Who. Whilst they are both very mass appeal shows, family viewing entertainment, Sarah Jane had its priority specifically with children. It is a children's show viewed on CBBC. Whilst a lot of these episodes are actually phenomenal, it is important to keep the target demographic in mind. Sarah Jane Adventures is a significantly lighter show, focused on misunderstandings, rivalries, and mass murders in the neighbourhood. The show is really big on energy, speed, and monsters, whilst kind of low on character and plot developments. But that makes sense when your audience just come to the show for a Monster of the Week, something the show excels at. When Jodie Whittaker was announced as the 13th Doctor, the gender swap freaked out many. It was the source of much idiotic backlash. Even some from fans. This changes the show's format. The Doctor has breasts now, the show is completely different. As this spin-off proves, the lead gender does not matter. The gender swap may be a big cultural change, it may be a big character change, but it will not mess with the format. Because Sarah Jane Smith is playing the Doctor role in all of these Earth-based stories. Liz Sladen competently and coolly brought us a Doctor-like problem solver. To kids, the gender is irrelevant. Mostly, I hate the insinuation that young boys can't look up to women as role models. And that's partially why Sarah Jane Adventures actually meant a lot to me as a kid. Children's programming had a new role model to look up to. A lady in her late 50s was now a children's hero, a badass. That's brilliant. My favourite part of the show is her relationship with her friends, who are secondary schoolers. Genuine friendships across such a big age gap, whose safety she is responsible for. It's got a little bit of a Doc Brown, Marty McFly vibe, and the bond just feels so pure. The nostalgic idea of finishing school, coming back in, and throwing on Sarah Jane Adventures made me so happy. Unlike a certain other show, this was a spin-off that knew its target audience and was great at delivering to them what they wanted to see. For example, Revenge of the Slitheen. As an adult man watching this children's piece of entertainment, it's adorable. Objectively, this is quite a cliched runaround, but I think I just have a little bit of a soft spot for those green boys. I love the Slitheen in any medium. And boy, I'm in luck, because those costumes get some usage in this series. The Slitheen have invaded the administration of a secondary school for some reason. The premise is nonsense, but it's exactly what I wanted to see at the age of 12. I'm not going to give any of these stories a free pass, because it's just for kids. No, if an episode is bad, it'll be an episode that even as a 11-year-old kid I knew was lacking. Whereas I adored this when it first broadcast. Smart creators understand that kids are not idiots, but they still deserve fun. Just the idea that my teachers are aliens and I'm being chased through a school by monsters is perfect. Perfect for what this show was setting out to do. Number 2, Lost in Time. No, not the Lost episode. Lost in Time. At the 30-second mark of this story, all of our cast are spread throughout time and space. Yeah, boy, we've only got like 45 minutes. There's no time to get your bearings. Clyde, you're in Nazi Germany now. This story is essentially 3 solo adventures brought together by a ticking clock. I originally wanted to pass this one off as filler, but then I just had so much fun. Really drawn in by the idea that our cast finally gets to have some fun in the Doctor Who format. Rani in the Middle Ages. Sarah Jane Smith on her last time adventure. No! Every character proves himself as worthy in this one, and not just capable of being independent, but able to save the day by themselves. Clyde and Rani could easily be Doctor Who companions, that's all I'm saying. They really deserve it. These are really emotional, fast-paced stories. And also, Clyde handles himself against actual racist Nazis. Yeah, that deserves some credit. That's gutsy for CBBC. The Last Sontaran. This story acts as a sequel to The Poison Sky. It's really fun that this ran parallel with the Doctor Who series for a couple years. My favourite thing about this one was the stakes. The second Sarah Jane Smith realises and recognises that ship, she immediately says that they are all out of their depth. That just sends shivers down my spine. And yes, it is just the one Sontaran, singular, but these are the real deal. Their menace and betrayal is more akin to the classic series idea of what a Sontaran is. A cold, calculated strategist rather than Strax. This is no K9 and Company. Sarah, you've got a lot on your plate here. Commander Karg is my favourite Sarah Jane villain because they're actually taking Sontaran seriously. Moffat! There are many points in this story where our cast of children could be brutally shot down. Now, that doesn't happen, unfortunately, but it does have the only true great cliffhanger of the entire show.
Our battle intelligence on semi-developed organisms is incomplete. The countdown will give me time to expand it with the experiments I shall perform on you.
Don't you lay a finger on him, I won't let you!
Defiance will be eliminated!
The Death of the Doctor. Yeah, the Doctor. It's a crossover. There are only 2 occasions where 2 different incarnations of the Doctor are featured in this show, and this one is my favourite one. No offence, Tennant, but the episode was just a little bit whereas the 11th Doctor just has more to do. Matt Smith's iteration is just more interactive and fun with the cast. And this is also a very rare opportunity where Ross Davies is writing the 11th Doctor. And he's very good at it. On top of that, they bring the Shan Sheath, really well designed villains with a really unique plan. A breakneck pace, and Joe Grant, my ditzy fave, who in this will break your heart. Why didn't he go back for Joe? Why wasn't he there for her wedding? This episode is fun, but also gets uncomfortable. And lastly, the Empty Planet. What is a very simple concept from something like the Twilight Zone? I don't know, it's been done to death. Leads to a very fun, independent character piece, allowing Rani and Clyde to do some stellar problem solving without Sarah Jane. It sure is lucky that these 2 can actually act, unlike some. Luckily, I happen to really like Rani and Clyde, and their relationship gets very tested here. But in a story with no other actors, they really carry it. Except for, you know.
Clyde, Rani, thank you. Earth was never my home. Not really. But it is your home, and you're lucky to have people that love you here. Before I go, I now name you Lord Clyde and you Lady Rani.
That was really bad. That's okay, it's got robots. I like the robots. And now the worst. I'm gonna try and get through these very quickly because imagine hating an episode of Sarah Jane Adventures. That just seems wrong to me. There are many things to hate in this world, and Warriors of Kudlak is not something I want to expend that energy on. Episode 3 of the series was just a bit lazy. It's a lame plot. What do kids like? Laser tag? Cool. Aliens invade laser tag. Because what we need is kids fighting our interplanetary war. That doesn't make sense. It's a bad idea and you should feel bad. Number 2, Day the Clown. Featuring, and get this, future companion Bradley Walsh as a killer demon clown. Weird casting for Pennywise, not gonna lie. There is nothing else to say about this story other than it's it. It is Stephen King's novel, It. And that's it. That's all there is. I know Doctor Who has a penchant for lifting things as well, but this is just straight plagiarism. Number 3, Invasion of the Bane. This was the hour-long pilot that I think broadcast on New Year's Day. It is just the definition of slow starts. The effects are pretty good and it really wants to impress you, but I remember sitting there, 10 years old, vibrantly unimpressed. Maria and Luke are, not the best. And I think the premise for Sarah Jane's life is just very, very strange, and there's no good way to introduce that this is what she does for a living. So, here's my computer husband in the attic, and this is my robot dog. He's circling a black hole right now. You live alone, don't you? Yes, I'm very lonely. It's just the strange premise of the show. But hey, watch out! Fizzy drinks are evil! The Vault of Secrets. In the Vault of Secrets, we meet Agent Smith, who is a robot android who covers up alien contact. This guy is not very good at his job. Hey, kinda weird we've never met you or seen you before. Elsewhere, this episode's protagonist is Rani's mum, who makes Jackie Tyler look subtle. I wouldn't mind her getting an episode to prove herself, but then her mind is wiped at the end anyway, so what was the point? Androvax returns as the series' lamest single villain. And whilst he was a villain in another story, he's actually kind of the good guy here. So the episode runs out of steam, and it's like, okay, what is the plot? So eventually, even though there is no real conflict, the episode descends into a runaround anyway. But the effects are pretty damn good for this sort of budget. Almost impressive, except you forgot the story. And finally, Sky. Series 5 is a weird one. There are only 2 stories in this because of the sad death of Elizabeth Sladen. This obviously affected the last 3 stories, and Sky is a story that obviously wanted to rejuvenate the show. It wanted to continue it. It introduces a new cast member, giving Sarah Jane Smith a daughter. And it's just quite a difficult watch. It was at this point that I realised that the Sarah Jane Smith formula was quite tired. It's repetitive, seeing a runaround with very formulaic fixed ending. An intergalactic misunderstanding, and this is just another one of those. But at the same time, you can't be angry at it. It just feels odd that after Goodbye Sarah Jane Smith, the finale from last season, wrapped up the show perfectly, this show just trundles along to an awkward, abrupt end. I'm happy they televised it, but it's an uncomfortable viewing, where I just wish the show had gone out on a high note. I feel bad critiquing Series 5 because nobody's to blame, nothing went wrong, and just a tragic event happened and we lost our female lead. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Sladen, and goodbye to the Sarah Jane adventures. A great part of Doctor Who history. When Nicholas Courtney passed away, that was a huge blow to the show as well. And the Brigadier also died in the in-world Doctor Who universe. Torchwood also came to a natural end with the team disbanded. And although we haven't seen or heard from Sarah Jane in the new series, and let's face it, we won't be seeing these cast of characters again, I still love the idea that Sarah Jane, her daughter, and her best friends are solving mysteries in Bannerman Road.